Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're cutting through the noise to explore something every Linux user and administrator touches daily: user interfaces.
Yeah.
You interact with them, sure, but what does it really take to master their management? Especially, for someone aiming to be a Red Hat certified system administrator, an RHCSA, we're talking about those core skills that prove you don't just use a system, but you truly understand how to command it, keep it running smoothly, and, well, fix it when it inevitably throws a curveball. Think of this deep dive as your shortcut to becoming incredibly well-informed about the hidden power and, the visual flexibility of Linux.
Exactly. Our mission today is really to unpack the essential know-how. We'll go from the raw power of the command line to the more intuitive graphical environments, and even touch on how you manage systems, thousands of miles away. And crucially, we'll cover that indispensable skill of troubleshooting when those interfaces decide to be, well, less than cooperative. It's not just about what these interfaces are, but how they function in practice and why they're absolutely vital for robust system functionality.
So whether you're prepping for a certification, maybe just catching up on the field, or maybe you're just insanely curious about what goes on under the hood, get ready for some truly surprising facts and maybe some practical aha moments. Let's unpack this. Okay, let's start at the absolute foundation of Linux proficiency: the command line interface, or CLI.
Yeah.
For an RHCSA, it's not just a tool, it's truly the cornerstone, isn't it?
It absolutely is. Yeah. The CLI is your direct line, really, to the system's core. Imagine you're a sysadmin, right? And suddenly a critical service isn't responding. Maybe your graphical interface is frozen, or perhaps you're connecting to a server that doesn't even have a GUI installed.
Happens all the time.
Oh, yeah. That's when the CLI becomes your lifeline. It's how you, navigate file systems, manipulate permissions, manage software packages, control processes, all without a single mouse click. What's fascinating here is just the sheer precision and, frankly, the unmatched control it offers. For an RHCSA, this means not just using any old shell, but really understanding shell proficiency. We're talking environments like Bash, which, is the default for most Red Hat systems. Then there's Djere, known for its advanced features, lots of customization.
Very popular now.
Very popular. And even Crash, which you might still bump into in older or specific enterprise environments, understanding their core differences in scripting syntax or interactive features, that's key for navigating diverse Linux systems.
It's not just knowing the commands themselves, but knowing how the environment around the commands actually works.
Exactly.
And speaking of commands, what are the absolute essentials an RHCSA really lives by?
Precisely. Yeah, you'll be living in commands like cdt to change directories, mkg to create them, rm to remove files and directories. Careful with that one.
Yes.
And shrug to manage permissions. Now, Schmod seems straightforward, but mastering its octal notation and really understanding the mask setting, that can save hours of troubleshooting those permission-denied errors that often plague new systems.
Oh, I bet.
Beyond the file system basics, you'll regularly use find for searching files across the entire system, grep for powerful pattern searching within files, which is essential for sifting through log files.
Oh, indispensable.
Totally. And sed for sophisticated, non-interactive text editing, directly from the command line.
That's a lot of power just for text manipulation.
Yep.
What about controlling what's actually, running on the system, the processes?
Right. That's where the more advanced CLI skills come in. You'll use epis to display process information, kill to terminate maybe runaway processes.
Gently at first, hopefully. Haha, yes. Start with SIGTERM. And system, which is huge now for managing vital system services like web servers or databases. This lets you quickly restart a service, check its status, or even stop it completely, which is, critical for maintaining stability and for automating all these tasks. The ability to write shell scripts is absolutely key for efficiency, whether it's for daily backups or maybe deploying complex configurations across dozens of machines. And of course, you can't manage a system without managing who's actually using it. So user and group management. That involves creating and modifying user accounts with UserAdd and UserMod, and handling group memberships with GroupAdd. This ensures proper access control and, crucially, security.
And goes even deeper, right? Understanding the very structure of data on the disk itself.
Exactly. An RHCSA needs to understand file systems and storage. This includes using mkfss to create new file systems on storage devices, mount to make those file systems accessible to the operating system. And df to display disk usage, which is essential for capacity planning and troubleshooting, those dreaded disk-full errors. All these CLI skills, they allow for a really granular level of control that graphical interfaces simply can't match. And often, they're the only way to perform certain critical administrative tasks.
So the CLI truly gives us unparalleled precision automation. But let's be honest, not everyone wants to live solely in the terminal, right?
Fair point.
For the day-to-day user and even for administrators sometimes, there's a whole visual world of Linux. So how does an RHCSA master the graphical user interface, the GUI, for both usability and robust management?
Right. While the CLI is paramount, fluency in graphical user interface environments, or GUI, is equally vital. It really is. It's about providing a user-friendly, accessible experience, and an RHCSA needs to make sure that experience is both reliable and, importantly, configurable. A deep understanding of desktop environments like Genome, KDE, Plasma, and maybe XFCE is crucial. And these aren't just, themes or skins. They are comprehensive graphical interfaces. They provide the entire user experience, from file browsing to launching applications. An RHCSA needs to know how to configure their core components, things like wallpaper, themes, fonts, panels, menu layouts, to meet user preferences or maybe organizational standards.
So it's not just using them, but really mastering their customization and ensuring they actually run smoothly.
That's right. And then there are the display managers. These play a critical role in managing the graphical login process and, well, providing that login interface you see first. Familiarity with GDM, that's the Geom Display Manager, LightDM, SDDM, it's essential. This includes their configuration for secure and user-friendly login everything from how the screen looks to how users actually authenticate. This is often the very first point of interaction for users, so ensuring it's robust is absolutely key. And we can't forget the underlying display systems themselves. Understanding the traditional X window system, or X11, is still important. You need to know how to configure the X server and manage X11-based applications. Now, the key difference with Wayland isn't just that it's newer, more secure, though it aims to be.
Right.
It fundamentally changes how graphics are rendered. It moves away from X11's network transparent model, which could be complex, towards something simpler, potentially.
Simpler, but maybe different challenges.
Exactly. This can simplify some configurations, but often introduces challenges, especially for older legacy X11 dependent applications. That's a common troubleshooting scenario for an RHCSA.
Okay, so it's a mix of knowing the legacy stuff and the cutting edge, and crucially, how they interact. What about the typical applications people use every day within the GUI?
Yeah, knowing how to install, configure, and troubleshoot common GUI tools and applications. Think file managers, web browsers, office suites, that's also expected. And crucially, something often overlooked, an RHCSA must understand how to configure GUI environments for users with disabilities.
Accessibility.
Yes, features like screen readers, magnification tools, keyboard-only navigation. These are vital for inclusivity and also for meeting accessibility standards in any professional environment. It's really about ensuring that not only is the system powerful and secure, but it's also intuitive and inclusive for all users, regardless of their needs.
Okay, so beyond interacting directly with the machine, standing right in front of it, there's this whole world of remote administration. What does this all mean for managing systems from afar? It would sound like a huge efficiency gain, but also maybe a potential security minefield.
You've hit on something crucial there. Yeah, this is exactly where efficiency meets security head-on. RHCSAs must be proficient in various tools and protocols to securely access and manage Linux systems remotely. It's about streamlining workflows without compromising that security.
And the most common, the sort of fundamental tool for this is SSH, right? Secure Shell.
Absolutely. Secure Shell, SSH, is fundamental, foundational. This means understanding its role in secure remote access, knowing how to configure SSH servers and clients, and critically, how to manage SSH keys. SSH keys are a far, far more secure alternative to passwords for authentication.
Much better, yeah.
Oh, much better. SSH is also used for secure file transfer using commands like CP and SFTP, and for just executing commands remotely. And tools like Sush agent, which securely holds your decrypted SSH keys in memory, and maybe Keychain for persistent agent management across reboots. These are crucial for securely managing access without constantly re-entering passphrases. Makes life easier and more secure.
Right.
Now, for graphical remote access virtual network computing, or VNC, and the remote desktop protocol, RDP, are key. You need to know how to configure VNC servers and clients, how to manage remote desktop sessions effectively, and use tools like Fitadesktop that's primarily for connecting to Windows systems, or something like Ramina, which is a really versatile cross-platform tool for both RDP and VNC connections.
Yeah, okay.
And security considerations for VNC and RDP are paramount. You have to ensure encryption and robust authentication because these connections essentially expose the entire desktop environment remotely.
Yeah, it sounds like it's not just about getting the connection, but making absolutely sure it's ironclad, especially when you're looking at a full graphical session going over the network.
Precisely. You have to lock that down. We should all briefly mention tools like Telnet and Rush.
Oh, the old ones.
The very old ones. They're generally not recommended for production environments anymore. Their fatal flaw is transmitting sensitive data, including passwords, in plain text. Just don't use them if you can avoid it.
Not good.
Not good at all. Extremely vulnerable to eavesdropping. And there are other useful remote tools too, like ResSync for efficient incremental file transfers, great for backups and screen, or TeepMux for managing persistent terminal sessions. So, your work doesn't just disappear if your network connection drops mid-task.
Ah, that's a lifesaver. So it's not just about getting in remotely, but getting in securely and efficiently, no matter the scenario. That's a really critical distinction.
Absolutely. And finally, all this knowledge is only truly valuable when you can apply it to solve actual problems. So this section is about the indispensable skill of troubleshooting. Because let's face it, things will go wrong. It's just a matter of when.
This is where the rubber meets the road.
Yeah.
Definitely. What happens when the display isn't working? Or maybe you just can't log in graphically. Where does an RHCSA even begin to look?
Well, you'll encounter common GUI issues like maybe a blank screen after login, applications crashing unexpectedly, or just a frustratingly sluggish desktop performance. For display system troubleshooting, this means addressing X11 issues, things like incorrect display resolution, problems with graphics drivers, or configuration errors in the X server itself, the xorg.com file perhaps. And for Wayland, troubleshooting often involves digging into display manager configuration problems or issues with how sessions are managed because it relies on a different underlying architecture than X11.
Okay, so it's about digging into the specifics of why something isn't working and knowing which piece of the graphical puzzle is misbehaving.
Indeed, yeah. You'll also need to troubleshoot GUI component issues related to the specific desktop environment, maybe the window manager or the display manager itself. This involves using diagnostic utilities. Tools like xrandr are great for adjusting display resolution and managing multiple monitors. XDMCP might be used for remote X server connections in some setups. And glixinfo is useful for querying graphics card capabilities and driver information, often the first step when a GUI feels really sluggish.
And when all else fails, you go to the logs. They always have the story, don't they? If you know how to read them.
They usually do, yes. Analyzing log files and system messages is absolutely crucial. This includes varlog or .log for X11 specific issues that gives you clues about graphics driver loading or display failures. And varlog messages are often the system journal for more general system messages. Even more powerfully, journal-let-to-tell is your go-to tool now for comprehensive log analysis. It lets you filter by service, time, severity. Really powerful. For more stubborn application crashes or freezes, debugging tools like GDB, that's the GNU debugger, it lets you step through code execution and inspect variables.
Wow, deep stuff.
Yeah, or strace, which traces the system calls a program makes. These are indispensable for pinpointing those really tricky root causes. And of course, being able to confidently edit and configure critical files like xorg.com for settings within, say, GNOME session is often key to resolving issues. Specific troubleshooting techniques might include knowing how to safely restart the X11 server or reconfigure the display manager, or even sometimes reinstalling GUI-related packages if they seem corrupted. The goal always is to provide effective support and ensure those GNU Linux systems run smoothly, maintaining stability and responsiveness for all the users.
Wow, what an incredible deep dive into the world of user interfaces on GNU Linux systems. Seriously, we've covered everything from the raw precision of the command line interface to the visual richness of graphical user environments, the absolute necessity of secure remote access, and those critical skills needed to troubleshoot when things inevitably go awry.
For anyone looking to truly master Linux system administration, or maybe just gain a deeper understanding of the systems they interact with daily, these competencies are, well, they're fundamental. They enable administrators to ensure robust functionality and responsiveness in pretty much any professional environment.
It really highlights just how versatile and powerful Linux is, doesn't it? Offering these multiple layers of interaction to suit different needs, different scenarios. It's like having both a precision surgical tool and a really friendly dashboard right at your disposal.
That's a good way to put it. And this kind of raises an important question looking forward. As user interfaces continue to evolve, maybe integrating more with new technologies like, say, large language models becoming more pervasive? How might the traditional skills of CLI and GUI management adapt, or how might they integrate with these emerging interactive paradigms? What stands out to you as maybe the most crucial interface skill for the future administrator?
Hmm. That is something to ponder as you navigate your own systems. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.